I just read this, but it just stopped recording. It didn't save anything I read, so I have to do it all again. So I'm starting it in Genesis chapter 5, verse 5, where from yesterday I talked about how God created the world, creation, just an answer to the world, and God cast out Adam and Eve, and then they had two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel, and then talks about his descendants. So this is the line of Seth, one of the descendants coming from Cain. This is a document containing the family records of Adam. On the day that God created man and made him in the likeness of God, he created them male and female. When they were created, he blessed them and called them mankind. So if I read really fast, just slow it down on YouTube if you want to. I just want to get through this again because I'm running out of time before I have to go to bed. Adam was 130 years old when he fathered his sons in his likeness, according to his image, and named him Seth. Adam lived 800 years after he fathered Seth, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So Adam's life lasted 930 years, and then he died. Seth was 105 years old when he fathered Enosh. Seth lived 807 years after he fathered Enosh, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So Seth's life lasted 912 years, then he died. Enosh was 90 years old when he fathered Kenan. Enosh lived 815 years after he fathered Kenan, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So Enosh's life lasted 905 years, then he died. Kenan was 70 years old when he fathered Mahalalel. How do you say that? Kenan was 840 years after he fathered Mahalalel, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So Kenan's life lasted 910 years, then he died. Mahalalel was 65 years old when he fathered Jared. Mahalalel lived 830 years after he fathered Jared, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So Mahalalel's life lasted 895 years. Then he died. Jared was 162 years old when he fathered Enoch. Jared lived 800 years after he fathered Enoch, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So Jared's life lasted 962 years, then he died. Enoch was 65 years old when he fathered Methuselah. After he fathered Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and fathered other sons and daughters. So Enoch's life lasted 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and then he was not there because God took him. Methuselah was 187 years when he fathered Lamech. Methuselah lived 782 years after he fathered Lamech, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So Methuselah's life lasted 969 years, then he died. Lamech was 182 years when he fathered a son, and he named it Noah, saying, "This one will bring us relief from the agonizing labor of our hands, caused by the ground the Lord has cursed." Lamech lived 595 years after he fathered Noah, and he fathered other sons and daughters. So Lamech's life lasted 777 years, then he died. Noah was 500 years old, and he fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth, sons and daughters of mankind. When mankind began to multiply on the earth and sons and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were beautiful, and they took any they chose as wives for themselves. And the Lord said, "My spirit will not remain with mankind forever, because they are corrupt. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on earth both in these days and afterwards, when the sons of God came to the daughters of mankind, who bore children to them. They are the powerful men of the old, the famous men." What is the Nephilim? Let's look. Verse 3. So it says, verse 3, verse 4. Who are the Nephilim, and what is anything in action with Nephilim, the sons of God and daughters of mankind? The word Nephilim is actually translation, a transliteration, not a translation, of the Hebrew word translated means fallen ones, a phrase that can mean morally or physically disgraded individuals or possibly angels who fell from heaven, in spite of its literal meaning many versions. Okay. Judgment decreed. When the Lord saw that human wickedness was widespread on the earth, and that every inclination of the human mind was nothing but evil all the time, the Lord regretted that he had made man on earth, and he was deeply grieved. Then the Lord said, I will wipe mankind whom I created off the face of the earth, together with the animals, creatures, crawl, and birds of the sky. For I regret that I made them. Noah, however, found favor with the Lord. God warns Noah. These are the family records of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among his contemporaries. Noah walked with God, and Noah fathered 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupted in God's sight, and the earth was filled with wickedness. God saw how corrupt the earth was, for every creature had corrupted its way on earth. Then God said to Noah, I decided to put an end to every creature, for the earth is filled with wickedness because of them. Therefore I'm going to destroy them along with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it with pitch inside and out the side. This is how you are to make it. The ark will be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 85 feet and 45 feet high. I cannot read. You are to make a roof, finishing the sides of the ark to within 18 inches of the roof. You are to put a door in the side of the ark. Make it of lower, middle, and upper decks. Understand that I am bringing a flood waters on the earth, and to destroy every creature under heaven with the breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark with your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives. You are also to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. To everything from the birds according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, from the animals that crawl on the ground according to their kinds. It will come to you that you can keep them alive. I always mess up when there's dashes, because it looks like the stop of a sentence and it keeps going, so I mess up when I say. Take with you every kind of food that is eaten, gather it as food for you and for them. And Noah did this. He did everything God had commanded him. Entering the ark. Then the Lord said to Noah, Enter the ark, you and all your household. I sense that you alone are righteous before me in this generation. You are to take with you 7 pairs, a male and its female, all of the clean animals, and 2 of the animals that are not clean, male and its female, and 7 pairs, male and female, of the birds of the sky, in order to keep offspring alive throughout earth. 7 days from now I will make it rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living thing I made will wipe off the face of the earth. And Noah did everything the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when flood came and water covered the earth. So Noah, his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives entered the ark, because the floodwaters from the clean animals, unclean animals, birds, and every creature that crawls on the ground, 2 each male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, just as God had commanded them. 7 days later the floodwaters came on the earth. The flood. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day all the sources of vast water depths burst open. The floodgates of the sky were opened, and the rain fell on earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that same day Noah, along with his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's wife, and 3 sons' wives, entered the ark with him. They entered it with all the wildlife according to their kinds, all livestock according to their kinds, and all creatures that crawl on the earth according to their kinds, every flying creature, all the birds, and every winged creature according to their kinds. 2 of every creature that had breath of life in it came to Noah and entered the ark. Those that entered, male and female, of every creature, entered just as God had commanded them. Then the Lord shut them in. There's a picture of it right there. The flood continued for 40 days on earth. The water increased and lifted up the ark so that it rose above the earth. The water surged and increased greatly on earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. Then the water surged even higher on the earth, and all the high mountains under the whole sky were covered. The mountains were covered as the water surged above them more than 20 feet. Every creature perished, those that crawl on earth, birds, livestock, and those that swarm on the earth, as well as mankind. Everything with the breath, spirit of life in his nostrils. Everything on dry land died. He wiped out everything that was on the face of the earth, from mankind to livestock, to creatures that crawl, to the birds of the sky, and they were wiped off the earth. Only Noah was left, and those that were with him on the ark. And the water surged on the earth 150 days. If you ever are in science class or whatever, and they ask you, how do they find fish fossils, stuff like that, on really high mountains, and they try to use something from like evolution or whatever to explain it. The actual reason is because in the Bible it directly says all water went up at least 20 feet above the highest peaks, meaning like even Mount Everest, multiple miles up, the water covered that. And then that would have left the fish, as it decreased on those mountains, maybe like there was like somewhat like a crater, and as the water decreased, it kind of left like a little pond, and then as it decreased even more, that pond of water or whatever slowly went out, and then left the fish there to die, or the water dried up or froze or whatever that was there. And so that's how fish fossils are found up on mountains from a long time ago. The flood recedes. God remembered Noah as well as the wildlife and all the livestock that were with him in the ark. God caused the wind to pass over the earth, and the water began to subside. The sources of the watery depths and the floodgates of the sky were closed, and rain from the sky stopped. The water steadily receded from the earth, and by the end of 150 days the water had decreased significantly. The ark came to rest in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, on the mountains of Ararat. The water continued to recede until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, the tops of the mountains were visible. After 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark that he had made, and he sent out a raven. It went back and forth until the water had dripped up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see whether the water on the earth's surface had gone down. But the dove found no resting place for food. It returned to him an ark, because water covered the surface of the whole earth. He reached out into the ark to himself. So Noah waited 7 more days again, and sent out the dove from the ark again. When the dove came back to him at the evening, there was a plucked olive leaf in his beak, so all of the water on the earth's surface had gone down. After he waited another 7 days, he sent out the dove, but did not return to him again. In the 600th and the first year of the month, the first day of text. Sorry. I have my Apple Watch on, so my wrist is buzzing. So the dove brought the olive leaf to show the water had gone down, exposed some trees, but not quite yet, to allow it for the ground to be exposed. After 7 days, the dove did not come back, showing that it made its own nest. In the 1st month, on the 1st day of the month, the water that had covered the earth was dried up. Then Noah removed the ark's cover and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. By the 20th day of the 2nd month, the earth was dry. The Lord's promise. Then God spoke to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you, your wife, and your sons, and your sons' wives with you. Bring out all the living creatures that are with you, birds, livestock, those who crawl on the earth. They'll all spread over the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth." So Noah, along with his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives, came out. All the animals, all the creatures that crawl, and the flying creatures, everything that moves on earth came out of the ark by their families. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord. He took some of every kind of clean animal and every kind of clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a pleasant aroma. He said to himself, I will never again curse the ground I'll never again curse the ground because of human beings, even though the inclination of the human heart is evil from youth onward. I'll never again strike down every living creature, every living thing as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold heat, summer and winter, and day and night will not cease. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. I have a bit of runny nose today. That's it. So, yeah. I said that on the first recording, but didn't save, so I didn't say it the first time. My monitor is over there, and it has the recording of me showing up right here. So I sometimes look over there instead of looking at the webcam right there. So basically what it talked about today was first, it was just the descendants of Seth, but then how they grew evil. And so God decided to wipe out the earth. But then Noah had stayed strong in God and continued to believe. So God told Noah to build an ark, and Noah and his family, like his wife and his brothers' and their wives came, and they got in the ark that he built, and 2 pairs of every unclean animal and 7 pairs of every clean animal came. And then the water, there was a flood, and that's how fish fossils are found on mountains now, because it said the water covered at least 20 feet over the highest peaks. And that's also how it is actually thought that the Grand Canyon was formed, because when you look at it, it does not look like it's been formed over time by a river, because by the carvings of it, it looks more like it was suddenly shot up out of the ground and carved really fast. And in the Bible, it talked about how water burst out from the ground, and rose, as well as like deep rains and all that stuff. And so that's how the Grand Canyon likely formed. And so that's pretty cool to think about, all that stuff that actually points to God. So that if you're struggling in your faith, that's just another reason to believe. And then after the water had gone down some, he sent out a dove, but it came back. 7 days later, he sent it out again, and it brought out a leaf showing that the water had gone down enough to expose the olive tree, but not enough to expose the ground. And it came back, and then he sent it out one final time, and it didn't come back, showing that the water was all dried up. And then God opened the doors. It's cool to think that God actually sealed the doors himself too. It's like you can only open it from the outside, I think. I'm not really sure. I saw the Ark Encounter, but it's been a while. I can't remember all that. But yeah, that's all for today. I hope to see you tomorrow. Goodbye.